Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this episode of the How to Play Chess series, we will be covering a most unfortunate situation, which is stalemate or a draw. I'm going to first cover a classic stalemate position, and then I'm going to talk about the different situations that will warrant a draw. They're quite rare, but because this is a How to Play Chess series, I feel obliged to share them with you. But you will rarely see them. This does happen more often than you would think, and let me tell you why. Consider today's board position. In my previous video, White delivered checkmate, and I actually found more ways to deliver checkmate than what I discussed in the video. I talked about b7, I talked about b8, but you can even deliver checkmate on b6, on b5. The king is simply trapped and legally cannot move next to the other king. So there were actually plenty of ways to checkmate the king, but in my mind the best that I could see were on the b file. Always consider different ways to checkmate your opponent. So this was the board position of my previous video, and like I said, there were 2, 3, 4 ways to checkmate black. Consider this board position. Let's just say that White was on b3, and White knows that they're about to win. It's exciting. Perhaps they've been playing for hours. Perhaps there's an audience. Maybe they're tired. They're hungry. It doesn't matter. It happens to the best of us. But let's just say that White, for some reason, doesn't want to get too close and makes a very, very poor decision and actually moves to b6. This can happen, and it has happened. Let's talk about what's going on here. So black, unfortunately, is trapped. Black does not have a legal move. If it had another piece on the board, for example, it had a knight on the board, or there was a pawn on the board, then this is not stalemate. The game keeps going because black can still make legal moves. Okay, but let's just say that it's a classic endgame. White has captured all of black's pieces. Black does not have a legal move. Let me show you. Black cannot move to b8 because of the king rule, and it's in check with the queen. It most definitely cannot move to b7, and black cannot move to a7, which unfortunately means that black cannot make a legal move. This is stalemate. White was so incredibly close to delivering checkmate, but made a mistake and didn't actually check the king. Because black cannot move, this is now a draw. Equal points in a ranking or tournament situation, a very, very big letdown for White, and a relief for black, because black knew that they were about to be checkmated on the next move, and White simply didn't deliver it. This is a stalemate. Now I'm going to talk about some of the other ways that a game can end in a draw. I have actually experienced all of them, but at a beginner level it might take a few games before you even see this, so let me just walk you through it. And I just have to be careful that I explain it carefully. We're going to talk about threefold repetition or perpetual check. Perpetual check isn't the same as stalemate, but let me just show you what it is. Let's just say again, White doesn't know how to checkmate the king, so they keep making threats. Let's just say that White keeps moving to a6, and the only legal move for black is to move to b8, and essentially White keeps making the same checks, or the same board position is repeated 3 times. Now black obviously should run away, but if for any reason black doesn't, or black is very, very clever and thinks, well, White is constantly checking me in the exact same position, I might be able to get a draw. Eventually, when you have the same board position 3 times, it is called a threefold repetition. Black is perpetually in check, or cannot avoid the check. This is now a draw, because what you're really doing is you're torturing black. You're just checking them, but you're not delivering mate. The game isn't really making any progress, and at this point it becomes a draw. We're also going to talk about another board position that I've seen many, many times, and this is what is called the insufficient material draw. This is when both black and white do not have enough material to win. Classic example, there are only kings remaining. Draw. Let's just say king and bishop, not enough material. Draw. King and knight, not enough material. Draw. However, let's go and add a pawn into the equation. Is this an insufficient material draw? No, it's not, because on the very next move, white can and should promote into a queen. And now white has enough material to win. But if you take away the pawns and you have a classic king and knight, king and bishop, there are no pawns remaining. Essentially, it is going to be a draw. And the rule is that neither player has enough. So again, if we go and add the pawn back in, it's not a draw because black doesn't have enough material. Black can lose and be checkmated fairly and legally with just a king left on the board, as it does happen. So essentially, if neither player has enough, it's a draw. White has enough to win. It really, really does. White can win in this position and most likely will. So if we take away the chance of pawn promotion, we take away a queen and a rook. When you have the classic king, knight or king, bishop, or you don't have any other pieces left on the board, this is a draw, 1-1, equal. And the very, very final one I want to talk to has never actually happened to me, but it has happened in professional tournaments, and it's called the 50-move rule. So just to make sure I say it properly, if 50 consecutive moves have been made and there has not been a capture or a pawn hasn't been moved, then either player can claim a draw. So let me break that up a little bit, because we already know that this board position is a draw, but let's just say that someone didn't know about this rule. So let's unpack it. Both sides have made 50 consecutive moves. Okay, black is just running around the board, trying to run away. White doesn't know that it should promote the pawn, or it doesn't know about this rule. So if a pawn has not been moved in 50 moves, this pawn has not been moved, black and white keep running around the board, it's been 50 moves, it's a draw. What could also happen, a very common example, is what is known as a king and rook ending. Again, I've personally never experienced this, but I've heard about it. This normally ends up in a draw. A lot of the time, black or white will offer a draw because they know how difficult it is for this to end up in a checkmate. So let's just say that, okay, we know there are no pawns left. So there's no condition of a pawn hasn't been moved. Black is really just, trying to attack. Actually, no, that's not legal. They're both trying to make checks, but let's just say, white moves here, and then you definitely have a situation. White can't get too close without being captured by black. Black can't move too close without being captured by white, and you have a position where neither side really knows how to successfully win. And it's been 50 moves, there has not been a capture. The king and the rooks keep moving around the board. This unfortunately ends in a draw, which if you're winning, fantastic. Other way around, my apologies. If you're winning, it's very sad. You could have won. If you were losing, if you've been playing for hours and you're just exhausted, and then you realize your opponent has either made a mistake or cannot figure out a way to checkmate you, great. It ends in a draw, 1-1. It really comes down to a winning-losing situation, because ultimately a draw is equal. And as we've discussed in this video, a stalemate can occur when you are attacking the king, you've trapped the king, but you're not actually checking them. It can end in threefold repetition, where you keep checking the king in the same way and your opponent just can't escape it. You have insufficient material, or in a case such as this, 50 moves have been made without a single capture, a pawn has not been moved, it is a draw. Time to end the game, time to move on to another day and another game. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This may be one to come back to, because I think that these situations are rare. a lot of the time, and you may not experience these positions until you've played several games, perhaps hundreds of games. And I know for me, it took me hundreds of games before I had a threefold repetition used against me and I lost. So please come back and watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.